Goeiemorgen, good morning, kotsu, bonjour, como está? Today I'm going to show you how to make these straightforward, but very convenient mug hugs. I don't know, you may know them by another name. It is something that you wrap around your coffee mug. You can also do the same for cold beverages to prevent the heat from your hands to transfer to the contents of your glass. These mugs do not have a lot of shaping for the very specific reason mugs have different ears, and if you don't know what shape of mug it will be used on, then this can easily be wrapped around any mug and any ear shape. The little tongue can go through underneath the ear of the mug and be fastened. As you can see, it can be done in one variegated yarn. This one is more like a striped yarn. This one has very short variegations, and this one was done plain with a glitter yarn, and then I added some decoration afterwards. And for this one I have done separate stripes of two different greens and added a darker green for the border. Also, it can be done with synthetic yarn or cotton yarn, whichever one you prefer. All that said, in order to make this mug hug, you need to know how to do a UK double crochet or US single crochet, as well as some chain stitches. Lastly, we will work into the sides of the double crochet. So if you have trouble with that, there will be a separate video. There's also a video on doing the UK double crochet as well as the chain stitches. So if you have trouble with any of those, look at the separate videos. So on this video we can concentrate on the pattern. To make this mug hug, you will need double knit yarn. I'm using the Charity Frosted Pink. This is an acrylic, but it doesn't need to be an acrylic. Also, you don't need much. Between 20-25 grams of yarn is more than enough. A button to match, and for the double knit, a 4mm hook and some stitch markers, a yarn needle. If your yarn needle does not fit through the holes of your button, then you will also need a regular sewing needle and some matching thread and something to cut with. That's all you need, so let's get started. We will start by making chain stitches, and then in the chain stitches we will working double crochets back and forth. After that we will work some chain stitches again, continue working double crochets back and forth, and then at the same place as these, we don't work into those anymore, we just work into these and end by making a border all around, which will also give us the chain stitches to fasten the button. And that terrible drawing is what we aim to do with our crochet hook. To start, make a slip knot and attach the yarn to the hook, and we will chain 45. To chain, yarn around the hook, pull the hook with the yarn attached to it through the loop currently on the hook. This knot here does not count. There is the first chain that you've made. Continue making chains. If you need help, please look at my video on how to make a chain stitch. Otherwise, chain 45 and I will see you at the end of it. Double check that you have the correct stitch count. So there is my 45 chains. We will now make one more chain. This one does not count as a stitch. It is the turning chain for the double crochets. There's the loop on the hook. There's the turning chain that does not count. And this second loop from the hook is the chain that we will work into. Insert the hook. Pull the yarn through. Now you have two real loops on the hook. Yarn around the hook again and pull through both loops on the hook. That is the first double crochet completed. Insert a stitch marker or a loose piece of yarn into that stitch so that you can remember which is the first stitch of this row, which will be the last stitch of the next row. Continue. Insert the hook into the next chain. Yarn around the hook, pull it through. You now have two loops on the hook. Yarn around the hook, pull through both loops on the hook. That is the second UK double crochet or US single crochet that you've made. Again, insert the hook into the next stitch, which is a chain stitch. Yarn around the hook, pull it through, yarn around the hook, pull through both loops on the hook. Insert the hook into the next stitch, yarn around, pull through, yarn around, pull through both. Continue making double crochet stitches like this, one into each chain stitch, until you reach the end of the row, and I'll meet you there. I'm at the end of the row. As you can see, there is the stitch marker from the first stitch, and then we have worked one UK double crochet into each stitch. There's only one more chain remaining. Insert the hook into last chain, yarn around, work your double crochet, and that is the end of the row. Turn the work, crochet one chain. This does not count as a stitch. It is the turning chain to give us the height of the new row. Insert the hook under both loops of the first stitch. Make a double crochet if you're UK, or single crochet if you crochet American. First stitch of the second row, and immediately place the stitch marker to mark that it is the first stitch of this row, which means it will be last stitch when you do the next row. There you can see there is the stitch we have just worked into. There's the next stitch. Insert the hook under both loops, work one double crochet into each stitch until we get to the other side where there's the other stitch marker. So that is how we will know we're at the end of the row. I'm at the end, at the last stitch of the second row. See, there's the stitch marker, and work the double crochet. Do not work into the turning chain. Instead, turn the work around, chain one again to make a turning chain that will bring the hook up to the new height, and insert the hook underneath the top two loops, work a double crochet, and immediately replace the stitch marker so that you know which one is the last stitch of the row. Especially if you're newer at crochet, this helps keeping the edges straight. It is one of the biggest problems that new crocheters have, that the edges do not keep straight because they either make too many or too few stitches at the next row. There's the first row, the second row, and we have just started with the third row. Complete the third row, and then in exactly the same manner, one double crochet right up to the last stitch, work the last double crochet into the stitch with a stitch marker, turn and chain one, then start with another double crochet into the first stitch and every stitch. Work until you have 5 rows completed. I'll be back at the end of 5 rows of double crochet. 5 rows of UK double crochet completed. I have finished with the last stitch and placed the stitch marker into this last stitch. It seems mad at the moment because we're going to continue working, but there is a reason for that. Keep that stitch marker in there. Do not make a turning chain. Continue by chaining 5 more. 3, 4, and 5 chains. Now turn the work. Make sure the chains are in line with the double crochet stitches before that. One more chain. This one will be the turning chain and does not count as a stitch. This second chain from the hook is the first stitch that we will work into. Work a double crochet into this chain. Place another stitch marker into that double crochet into the second chain. 3, 4. You can see this is the last chain of the extra chains that we've made. The next one will be the last double crochet, or what was previously the last double crochet. Remove the stitch marker. Make a double crochet into what previously was the first and last double crochet. replace the stitch marker there, and this is how we keep track of the edge. So you have the 5 rows of double crochet, an extra 5 chains at the end of that, a turning chain that does not count as a stitch, a double crochet with a stitch marker to remember it is the end of this extension, 5 double crochets into the chains, and then we're back at working into the double crochets of the row below. Continue working double crochets until the end of this row. At the end of the row, turn around with a turning chain as usual, come back, I'll meet you there. I have completed this row that we've started by working into the chains to the end, made a turning chain, worked again 1 double crochet into each stitch. There we left the stitch marker. It is the last stitch to still work into. So I'm going to remove the stitch marker, work a double crochet into that stitch, immediately replace that stitch marker. There's the stitch marker replaced. Then work 1 double crochet into each of these 5 extra double crochets that we have, forming this lip. Remove the stitch marker, work into that last stitch, turn around, chain 1. This is the turning chain that does not count as a stitch. Double crochet into the previous double crochet, replace the stitch marker, work 1 double crochet into the next 4 stitches, which gives a total of 3 rows for the lip. There's the 1 row for the chain stitches, then 1, 2, 3 rows of double crochet. Remove the stitch marker, work a double crochet into that stitch, replace your stitch marker, then continue to work 1 double crochet into each stitch across to the end, make the turning chain, turn your work and work 1 double crochet all the way back, and I'll meet you when we're back there again. I have completed that row that we started at the end of the lip, completed the row, turn around, come back, and I'm now at the last stitch where we had this stitch marker. You can double check because there will be 5 stitches from this end, which forms the lip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches that will remain unworked. We will work the last stitch here where the stitch marker is, work a double crochet. Do not work into these last 4 stitches, turn around, make the turning chain, work into this last stitch we've just worked, double crochet, and replace the stitch marker. Work 1 double crochet into each stitch as we've been doing. You will now have the starting chains at the bottom, 5 rows of double crochet, after which we added 5 more chains to form this lip, 3 rows of double crochet across the entire length. On the next row, you stop here at the stitch marker, which will be in line with these places, leaving you 45 stitches at the top. You can count regularly to make sure that you're at the right place. So all of these first 5 rows will be 45 stitches each. After you've added the extra chains, it will be 50 stitches each. And then from the 9th row onwards, 5 plus 3, the next one, the 9th row onwards, it will only be 45 stitches again. And we will make 5 rows altogether of this. We have just finished the first one, started the second one, so there must be 3 more rows of double crochet, 1 in each stitch, and ending here. Complete this row and do 3 more rows of double crochet, 45 stitches per row. That will give you a total length of work equal to this one above the lip, and we're at the end of that. I'll meet you again. Okay, I'm over at the end. 1 more stitch to go. And there it is. It is now time to put a border all around the mug hug. We will still use double crochet UK term all around, except for over here we will add some chains to form the loop for the button closure. To get started, chain 1 and then into this first row end. There's the row we have just worked, right into this row end. Insert the hook, yarn around, pull through, yarn around, pull through both loops. And to help make the corner, we will do that again for a second time. Insert into the same place, There you are. Insert into the same place, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. It is a normal double crochet UK term or single crochet US term. There's the first row and the first stitch. There's the second row and there's the second gap between the rows. Instead of the wool between the wools, this is the gap between the rows. Insert, yarn around, pull through, and finish the double crochet. Since we had 5 rows, we will have 5 double crochets at the end of the row. There's number 3, number 4, and number 5. That row end is right here where we start with the lip. No, that's a tongue. Oh my goodness, full of anatomy here. This one was the last, worked into the last row edge. So the next stitch will go into the double crochet that formed part of the tongue. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those that we worked to make this extension here. So 1, 2, 3. You can remove the stitch marker. I'm just keeping it in as a reminder so you can clearly see where the end or where the last stitch is. Okay, so we've worked 4 into the lip. This one will go into the last stitch from the top. Then I will take off the stitch marker, make the last stitch in this side, and then again to turn the corner, because we now need to work at the edge of the row. So to turn around that corner, we will make extra double crochets to get it all around. So there's 1 for the corner and 1 for the side. So into the same stitch we worked 1 from the edge, 1 to help make the corner, and the third one to form the edge on the side. After making the 3 stitches to turn the corner at the edge of the tongue, it is now time to make chain stitches to form the loop for the button to go through. So depending on what size you're working with, you may need to make more or less chain stitches, but for this button I need to make 4 chain stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then skip this part in the middle and go straight to the other corner of the tongue. Into the last gap between rows, work 3 stitches again to turn around the corner. 1, 2, 3. We now work into the bottom of the chain stitches of the tongue. There is a double crochet. Go right underneath the 2 loops that are remaining of the chain stitch. We need to make 4 more. We've already made 1 at the corner, so 4 more. 2, 3, 4, 5. We have now worked all around the tongue. It's time to continue down the side of the mug hug. So locate the next gap between rows. Remember there's 5 rows, and so for the next gap between rows we'll go into this one where the row that makes up the tongue meets the row on the other side of the tongue. If you need to stretch open the crochet work, and then you can more easily see where the gaps between the rows are. This one is the last gap between the rows. That one there is the last crochet row. This is the chain stitches from the foundation chain where we started everything. 1 more stitch into that edge to go around the corner, and then a 3rd one. And I'm going to work right over the starting yarn end. When working into the bottom of the chain stitches, there are 2 strands that was left of the chain stitch. We worked into one to form this double crochet when we worked them like that. Now we're working into the bottom, the other part, the other half. So there is the double crochet stitch that we've made into the chain. And if you follow down the double crochet stitch and just stick in the crochet hook, it will find the gap. Oops. There is the next crochet stitch. If you follow it down with your crochet hook, it will go into the gap. It just slips right in. Continue working one double crochet into each stitch all around. 3 to go around the corner, 1 into every row end, 3 to go around the corner, 1 into every row end until we get to the other side where we started the border. When you're on this last side of the border, it is almost like just working another regular row of double crochets, making a double crochet into every double crochet, 1 into every row end until we get to the other side where we started the border. Don't try to work into the chain stitch we've made to gain the height. Work into the first double crochet stitch, make a slip stitch to join the 2 rounds, and then fasten off by chaining 2, leaving enough yarn to comfortably work in, grab, pinch and pull tight. Work in your yarn end and then sew in your button. No, sew on the button. For a standard size mug, it should go right there and be just fine. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your coffee and have fun crafting.